If you regularly tune in to Mid-Mod Remodel, you've got a pretty good idea of what this architect has to say about the best way to keep or add to mid-century style in your home. But what would someone who specializes in interiors tell you? Well, Elin Walters of Exactly Design is going to walk us through her favorite tips, tricks, and philosophies for mid-century remodeling today. Plus the flip side, what not to do for a mid-century home. If you're aiming for a good outcome, a timeless, non-trendy one. This is the first time Elin has been on the Mid-Mod Remodel podcast, but I'm already sure you are going to love hearing from her. Let's get into it. Hey there, welcome back to Mid-Mod Remodel. This is the show about updating MCM homes, helping you match a mid-century home to your modern life. I'm your host, Della Hansman, architect and mid-century ranch enthusiast. You're listening to episode 1809. Before I get into it with Elin, I want to remind you that tomorrow, if you're listening on the day this episode drops, or Friday, September 6th if you're not, Modern House Numbers and I are hosting a free live 30-minute clinic on curb appeal updates. I will be sharing everything I can jam into a quick session on supercharging your easy-to-tackle home improvement projects, things you might take on this fall. New paint, the right color for your downspouts versus your gutters. No, it's not the same necessarily. Lighting, making the most of your mailbox, and of course, how to house number for best effect. Sign up now and save your spot at the midmod-midwest.com/CAC website for Curb Appeal Clinic, and then mark your calendar for tomorrow for this fun workshop. I can't wait to see you there. And if you're not free to join us live, well, we will be wrangling up a recording. Sign up anyway, especially if you can't make it, so that we have your email address and can connect you with the recording when it's ready. If you're feeling like you'd rather just skim through some advice rather than hearing me talk about them and showing you examples, default to my handy checklist of front door update ideas. I made it just for you. Grab that at midmod-midwest.com/front door, no space, or, check out the show notes page, which is, of course, at midmod-midwest.com/1809. You'll find a transcript of my chat with Elin. Plus, I'll be sharing some stunning photos of mid-century interiors that Elin has designed and coordinated construction on. Don't forget to click through and check them out. You'll enjoy them. When you live in a mid-century house, you're always looking for ways to keep what's mid-century great or maybe add something else. Today, I wanted to pick your brain about what are your favorite things to add, to keep, to encourage that really enhance or preserve or put back mid-century when you're working on a design project.
Okay. Nice. Thanks for having me. This has been a real treat. I've listened to your podcast forever and love what you do. And it's an honor to be here. So hello to everybody. Favorite elements. I mean, it's so hard. I just love everything that is mid-century. I think it's the simple design. I think it's the tenets of like bringing the outdoors and inside, using light, floor to ceiling windows, just simple design. Inventiveness. It seems like everything was sort of had a purpose or was designed with a purpose, but not overdone.
Yeah.
And then, lots of color and geometry and natural materials. I just love everything about it.
It's such a fun task to take a house that's already got great details and then try to play off them and work with them.
Right.
I get a bunch of really lovely houses that come with gorgeous mid-century details. And we also work with clients who have houses that are very modest from the mid-century era. And then we're looking for ways to fix them up a little bit.
Absolutely.
Do you feel like there are things that you regularly recommend or where are you and who comes to you to get help with this in the types of
I kind of deal with everybody. The full it's perfectly kept and we want to maintain everything just as it is, to I get some really weird ones. I live in a colonial house, but we want the entire inside to look mid-century modern. And I'm like, okay, we can do that. So I think it's things like wood paneling on the walls. I think it's interesting, simple backsplashes. I think it's adding windows. Anytime you can add more light, it's trying to meld that outside and the inside as much as you can. I think those are kind of like some simple ways to bring in mid-century.
I think it's interesting because a lot of people are trying to balance, they want a house to be brighter, and the sort of HGTV instinct is cover it all in white paint. But I think the
Oh,
balance of more daylight
yeah.
and then you can have darker materials
Yes,
gets a much more
exactly.
interesting lived
Right, right.
experience.
Like you can use walnut anywhere as long as you've
Mhm.
got the light to sort of balance it out and not make it so dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the play of using lighter woods and darker woods together can be interesting. You know, a lot of mid-century homes are the original floors, at least in the Midwest, is red oak or
Yeah.
red and white oak, right? And it's with the thin panels, but then sometimes having beams that are walnut is a nice contrast to, bring using the both shades of wood, and making it a little bit more interesting, a little more depth.
Yeah, when I work with my clients, I encourage them to think about a style guide that has a limited palette of woods, but not
Yeah,
everything needs to be the same. It's great
exactly.
to hear
Yeah.
you say that.
Right, right. And kind of creating that flow. If the beams are walnut, then maybe the kitchen cabinets are walnut, or maybe the pieces of furniture are walnut, and
Mhm.
then the rest is oak. Yeah, there's ways to play with it.
It's nice. That's definitely also something I think people sometimes they want to get creative. I feel like people go in two different directions. They either flinch and they want everything to match, everything needs to be
Yeah,
identical.
yeah, yeah.
And you get a very cold design,
Yeah,
or
boring. Right,
each thing is an individually selected item that doesn't relate to the others. But
right.
you
Like
have
too
some
much.
like
Yeah, yeah. It's the
something appears in
balance,
two
right?
places at
It's the
least.
simplicity with something interesting. It's the fun with the basic, right?
Yeah,
And I think the mid-century style did that so well,
yeah,
right? It's like using wood. It's just sort of normal and not boring, but like, basic. And then this crazy backsplash or a pink bathroom or a yellow bathroom or a blue bathroom, right? Like there's pops of things that make it have a little bit of flair, but
yeah.
then just some, average elements of wood and brick and balanced with
Right.
the fun, right?
When you look back at the advertising from that era, they're not talking about the most expensive, the most luxurious. They're talking about it's playful, it's easy to take care of, it's
Right. It's
clean.
simple, it's inexpensive, it's easy to get, right? It's 4x4 tiles.
Right.
Basic, right? And you can
And
still
yet,
go to Lowe's and
dollars.
get 4x4 tiles and have some fun with them, right?
Absolutely. So I think it really does give, if we can get on board with that idea, and most people who
Yeah,
like the results of a mid-century design might still,
right.
well, this is actually an interesting question. Do you find that your clients are coming to you saying, well, mid-century but very luxurious, or that they kind of have that brainworm of like high-end something? I feel like
Not so
you put a lot of
much.
expense into a mid-century design if you craft it
Yeah.
right, but you
Yeah, but
don't
I feel
necessarily need
like
the
the
highest material.
mentality is not luxurious, right?
Yeah.
Like like this era was about good design for the masses, right?
Mhm.
Right after the war. So there was mass production, it was let's knock them out quickly. And I feel like it was more for that middle class. And
Yeah.
I think the middle class mentality has sort of like shifted through to now. So I don't know about your clients, but my clients are they're not, they don't even say the word luxury, but like we create luxurious
Right.
environments that don't necessarily cost a lot of money, but they look dialed, right? They
Right.
look amazing.
They're cohesive, they match the era of the
Right.
house. I feel like they end up feeling design can bring so much
Yep.
high quality feeling to a space that you don't actually need to have
Right.
the most expensive
No,
component.
I mean, look at IKEA.
Right.
IKEA is a great example of amazing design, doesn't cost very much. They have brilliant designers who design simple things, and you and everybody else can go buy it because it's not going to break your bank account. I mean, I know I talk about IKEA all the time with my clients that you don't want to go there to buy your dresser
Mhm.
necessarily and expect that you're going to keep it for 40 years. It's not going to happen. But a really well-constructed kitchen with IKEA cabinets and then doors from another company, semi-handmade or Coquina or Modern Twig or whatever it is. There's gazillions of them now, can add that sophisticated flavor, but again, not break your bank account, which
Yeah.
yeah, I love the possibilities of good design, right? And it can
I
be
think
had
you're
anywhere.
you're absolutely right. And IKEA also, I think some people still have that connotation of, oh no, I got my college furniture there and it did not last. But
I know.
for me, the rule of thumb is if they're designing it with a faux finish, it's not built to
Mhm.
last. So yeah, the
Right,
dressers, not a good
right.
idea. But
Not
these
gonna last.
these shelves behind me are
Yeah,
grad school IKEA purchase, but they're the same design IKEA has been making the Ivar shelves since the
right.
60s.
60s, yeah.
I love the wood. I feel like the pine works well with the other pine in my house. I'm going
Absolutely.
to keep these in my office
Right. And it's
forever.
such a good way to like you mix it all, right? Like I think in my designs, I try to get a little vintage, I try to get a little new, I try to get a little, like what's your investment piece? What are you going to spend a lot of money on? And then let's not spend a lot of money on every single thing, right? Let's go buy it at the garage sale. Let's go look for it on Etsy. Let's curate something that has some soul, but also has some like, yeah, I got it off the shelf at Target and it looks like it belongs there. It doesn't, there are no rules, I guess.
That's
Um,
absolutely true.
yeah,
I love that idea of choosing a couple of pieces that you're going to really spend money on, and then other pieces can be found objects or Facebook Marketplace
right.
finds, because it's the same philosophy we use in our whole house design with our clients, which is in some areas, you're going to do the big splurgy move. You're going to elevate the ceiling. You're going to create an addition. And in other areas, we might just need to make a little tweak. And when people are
Completely.
choosing which direction to go in,
Mhm.
you want to invest more of your money in some spaces so there's really a
Yes,
sparkle, and then you can
correct.
save money with smaller little sensible design solutions in other
Correct.
areas.
Yeah.
You don't
And
have to
kind of
spend
on the
most of it.
heels of that is that I often tell people kind of at the beginning, like, let's shoot for the moon. What would you absolutely love? Like, if you could do everything and you had $1 million, what would your house look like? And what would you do? And then from there, we sort of like dial it back. Or it's like, okay, let's design it as if you're going to have all those things. And then I always advise that sometimes it's better to chip away at it over time than to try to just get the house in the first year that you live there, right? So do what's really important, but then save your money and then do the next stage, because we're all in such a rush. But there's some, like, the organic process is also kind of nice, and it's also, you get what you want in the end instead of cutting corners or cheapening kind of on the front end.
Yeah,
Yeah, and try to think of like, for 15 years from now, did I make the right choice? Right?
yeah.
Instead of redoing it. Yeah.
And I definitely am also in it for I would not, ideally, the same person is living in the house that we've worked on this year.
Mhm.
I have no desire to make changes to it
Right. Right.
necessarily, unless we're continuing out on the master plan that we created. Maybe they make no more changes in the lifetime they live in the house, and hopefully they
Right.
can age in place in that house. The next
Right.
person can change it or leave it, hopefully
Right.
they like it
Yeah.
too. But yeah, a long-term plan. We don't need fast fashion in our houses any more than we need it.
Exactly. Right. And especially in the day of, our environment is fragile. And do we
Yeah,
want to keep redoing and throwing away? And right. Like there's so many things to consider now.
yeah.
To
And
be
this is
intentional.
part of
Mm.
the reason I work in remodeling, is that I got
Right.
really frustrated with the waste involved in new construction. And I feel like if
Right.
you keep the structure, the location, the existing developed areas of mid-century neighborhoods, then we're
Right.
really doing something for the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Marvelous.
And
Well,
saving, right?
and
And
saving. It's
saving
a
all the
twofer.
amazing things that already exist, right? That just need to be improved or preserved or, yeah,
Yeah.
beautified. Yeah.
And saving, and maybe it feels more richly developed than something that was new build, no matter how much craft and care
Oh,
the new
hands
design anyway.
down, right? To build the quality that these houses are built at and now would cost so much money, which is why all these,
Yeah.
paper houses are built. I like to call them, like, you could blow them over.
It's absolutely true. Yeah, I really feel like the mid-century is, from an architect's point of view, it's a sweet spot of, we have the older materials, the old growth pine and lumber and structure.
Right,
And we
right,
have the old world craft of like the people who knew how to do plaster. As,
right.
as a general thing, there are still people who can do plaster, but they are such rare birds these days.
And
And
so
yet,
expensive now.
the
Right.
new energy of mass-produced materials and a modern layout, and the kitchen being, yes, a little bit of a separated space, but not a complete second class part of the
Right.
house. So
Right. Right.
it's that crossover
Hmm.
that makes it
Absolutely.
a wonderful
Yeah.
type of house to pour energy into and to really care for.
Right. Yep. There's already so much that's great in these houses. So much.
Well,
Right. So well.
yeah. Well, this is
Mhm.
okay. This has been so much fun. We're gonna have to do it all over again. And I think next time we
Okay.
speak, we should maybe, let's not go negative, but maybe
Let's
focus
make
on
it a
what not
regular
to do.
thing. Yeah. What was
Uh,
that?
maybe next time let's focus on what not to do for your
Okay.
mid-century house. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think
Great. Right.
we both have opinions about that.
Oh, very strong opinions.
Excellent. All right, well, let's do it again soon. So, when you want to make great choices for your mid century house, sometimes the best way to think about that is that there are a few things you should just absolutely avoid. Let's talk about that today. You must have some pet peeves, some things you say no to, or would not recommend about mid century updating. What's the top of your list for that?
Top of my list is really just wanting to take out something wonderful that was, that was already there, that was original. It doesn't happen very often because most of the people that call me kind of have a great sense about mid-century and the preservation, and they're excited about it, and they just want to make it better, or they want to modernize it. But every once in a while, I'll get somebody who is just not quite in tune with just how special it is. Or I had one situation where it was a couple where the husband was super dialed, like understood it, loved it, wanted to embrace it, loved the color. I mean, literally loved everything about it and wanted to restore everything. And the wife, who wasn't quite convinced, she was like, she liked parts of it, but she really just wanted something modern and clean, and didn't and kind of looked at it like, well, that bathroom is old and dirty, right? And so
Mhm.
I walked into this amazing bathroom, and it was like the best yellow tile, the best fixtures. I mean, just gorgeous, and I wouldn't touch anything. Does it have a little bit of wear? Yeah. But is it so bad that you can't live with it? Absolutely not. So it was that balance of like, it's just amazing and breathtaking and such good quality, with, okay, it's been around for a few years, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not the end of the world. Um, in this situation, I actually said, you know what? I, I can't touch this bathroom in terms of renovating it. It looks perfect to me. I'm not sure that I can take those tiles out, because it will just pull my heart out to do it. So I told her that, and she was like, okay, well, I'll live with it, and I'll see if maybe I can come around. And so that's what happened. She lived with it, and it's still there to this day.
Oh, great. I was hoping the story had a happy ending.
It did. But it was a lot of convincing, a lot of like,
Yeah.
are you sure? It's just really great.
Well, and that can happen too. I do often find I can't think of a case quite that dramatic as a couple, one of whom completely was obsessed with
Yeah.
their mid-century house, and the other was like, it looks tired and I want new. But we definitely I give my clients a style quiz to figure out sort of where they are on the preserve to upgrade.
As do I. Imagine that. Yeah.
And yeah, right, you have to know.
Right.
And we often get different results from different halves of the couple. And
Oh,
so
makes sense.
it's a little bit of
Right.
a balancing act to find
Exactly.
what's going to be the right choice. And sometimes it's sort of on a room by room basis. And sometimes we're thinking about our materiality is going to be really dialed in, and then maybe our
Yeah,
shape
and sometimes,
modern.
right, sometimes I know you find this too, that there are elements that are just magical that you really, really don't want to harm. And
Yeah.
then sometimes there's a kitchen that could be better, right? Like we could renovate that kitchen and make it look like it was from the mid-century, but use, wood that's not weathered or warped, or a counter that's actually not formica that's, bubbling, or,
Mhm.
there's a time and a place for updating. And the mid-century era was so great at using modern materials that I feel like nobody of that in that era would be like scolding us now. Like, don't
No,
touch it, right? Like,
I
they'd
think
be encouraging
they did
using the
like
modern.
to keep things going, but I think within
Right.
reason. And also,
Right.
I sometimes give new materials that weren't around in the mid-century the would they think it was cool test, and usually it's a
Mhm.
pass. It's like,
That's it. I
oh,
love that.
they did not have this, but if they'd had it, they absolutely would have thought it
Would they
was
like it? Would they
totally
like it?
cool.
Yeah, concrete. I mean, I guess concrete was around then, but there's different ways of using it now. But
Right, used differently
yeah.
now. But yeah, that sort of question I think comes in. And
Mm.
it is often when we're deciding in a master plan to preserve something or to change it, the maintenance status of it matters. Is it in great shape? Does it have as you say, a little bit of wear? Has it been used for 70 years?
Yeah.
They all have. But
Right.
is it holding up versus is it failing? And then
Right.
there's the question of like, is it working? But I would also be very hard put to damage a perfect color block bathroom,
Yeah.
even for a
Yeah,
layout
it's really
question. It's
hard.
a
I
hard
mean,
thing to
sometimes I
do.
understand if like the grout is terrible and it's so stained and you really can't revive it. I get it. And then, maybe we need to take out all the 4x4s and put in new 4x4s.
Mhm.
Maybe, right. But it's hard when you walk into something that is really untouched and beautiful and you want to take it out. Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I get a lot of people who are coming to us with houses where the damage has already been done. So
Yeah.
somebody got it and flipped it recently, or somebody went after it in
Right.
the 90s. And
Right.
so in those cases, we get the fun of we can change the layout, we can
Hmm.
make modifications because what's here is not original. And then we can I've had clients perfectly reproduce original
Yeah.
color block bathrooms in
Yeah,
house
exactly. That's
90s.
the best. It's the best when someone says, I want it to look like it did then exactly. Right. And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, that's not hard.
What are your, if you had to do that, what would be the most important sort of X factor to give it that, like,
I mean, in a bathroom, I say tile,
mhm,
right? Like it's really easy to create that same look with, 4x4 tiles or that mosaic tile on the floor.
mhm,
And then the cabinetry, just keeping that vanity really simple, can be floating or not, but just panel doors, flat panel doors. And
yeah,
it's easy in a bathroom, I think, to, do it to create that mid-century flavor very
yeah.
quickly.
Well, that maybe gets us into thinking about what is a cabinet design that rings mid-century versus doesn't, might bring us back to our what not to do. And what to do is the flat panel, of
Right.
course.
Yeah,
Okay.
slab, right? No shaker. Although every once in a while I will get somebody who just loves the shaker door
Mhm,
and you can make it work. It in some situations, right? Like it's still simple, it's still clean. It's
right.
not my favorite. But again, it's like the couple who one loves mid-century and one doesn't and you're like, "Okay, this is the compromise that we could
Right.
make. Do you
There's the
really
moment.
feel that strongly?" Right? But it doesn't happen very often. Yeah.
No, it's interesting too. And I think at this point, we both have businesses that have specialized enough
Mhm.
that the people who are coming to us generally are already
Correct.
self-selecting to do the
Yeah.
kind of work we love to do. And every now and then, though, I mean, I still schedule my lead calls to figure out, does someone actually live in a mid-century house?
Yep.
And do they like the mid-century of their
Yep.
mid-century house? And if the
Absolutely.
answer
I mean,
is
that conversation,
yes,
that's like the first 5 minutes, right? Is like, how did you find me? What were you drawn to? And then we want to make sure this is a good fit, right? Like you're
right.
interviewing me, but I'm also interviewing you because I
Mhm.
don't I don't want to work on a house that I'm not excited about. It won't be a good result. If I'm not excited and I don't love it, I don't want to do it and you don't want me to do it.
Right? Houses are so personal. And I feel like it's such a
Yeah,
responsibility to
absolutely.
take on thinking
Right.
to the design to make someone else's life better, to make their house more
Right.
fully realize how they want to live in it with their family
Right.
and themselves. If we don't have a good connection, that's infinitely harder, maybe
Really
impossible.
important. It's like I liken it to, and I tell people this, clients this, that I'm I'm kind of like your therapist. And we have kind of, not really. You don't need to tell me all the juicy stuff, but it is important that we have a communication and a style agreement
Yeah,
because I don't do Victorian, like, and I wouldn't do it well because I don't understand it, but I do understand mid-century and I
right.
am excited about it and I know how to do it and I know where to get the resources and the people and right, like you want me and you if you have mid-century, but other than that, see you later.
Find somebody who
Yeah.
loves that
Find
style.
somebody who's great
Absolutely.
at it. Right. Yeah. I'm happy to refer people who call and they just aren't quite, we're not quite seeing eye to eye. And I'm like, oh, I know a couple people in town. I think they would do a great job for you.
Yeah. And
It's
there's the therapy aspect of you have to ask someone to trust you with like, how
yeah.
messy are you really?
Right.
Do you have entirely different sleep styles? I've definitely designed
Right.
bedrooms for people who don't share a bed or who have like one of them is a night owl who manages a
Right.
club. One of them is a university professor who likes to go in early. So we had to have a
Right.
complete
Right.
light lock to a dressing room so that they could like slip out of bed and go get
It's
ready
all these
somewhere else.
questions on day one, right? Like
Right? It's
you
like,
wake up in the
hi.
morning, what does your day look like? What do you do? Are you tiptoeing out of the bed and taking a shower while your wife is still sleeping? And do we need to like take that into account? Or are you both up and down in the gym and the house is lit and all those things matter,
They
right?
do.
For all of us.
And
Yeah.
And they can feel personal. I mean, sometimes I feel like I know things about people's, particularly in bedroom situations, but also the kitchens, division of labor, the way
Yeah.
that people are sharing child rearing responsibilities.
Right.
It all matters. And the
It
more I
does. I mean, our
know,
homes are one of the most personal things about us, right? So you and I are going to dig into that personal aspect, right, with them very quickly. So
yeah.
yeah, it matters. If it matters if the relationship is a good one. Yeah,
Hmm.
from the get-go. And kind of on the heels of that, this just made me think that um, even within couples, you have to sort of navigate, right? Because they disagree or they have different design style aesthetics, or I joke when I can tell that it's like you have to read people, right, at the
Right.
beginning, and you can tell if there's going to be a little bit of discord. And so I try to like cut through the ice, and I'm like, well, my undergrad is in psychology, so I joke that I use that degree sometimes more than anything, because you're really having to hear people, understand people, bridge the gap between maybe husband and wife or partner and partner who don't always see eye to eye. So you kind of have to wear a few hats and not just picking out tile, but like listening, right? Listening to both sides and
That's a
finding
great
something.
background to have. Honestly, I feel like my architecture degree wasn't specialized in residential. That's my personal passion I've been involved in ever since I graduated. But I wish that there had been some, honestly, even if you're working for business, some client counseling
Oh,
classes involved in
absolutely.
the design degree would have been useful.
Right? Right. Yeah. You're off to a good start if you can intuit people and character. If you don't, yeah, go learn.
Exactly. But yeah, no, and I think that also is what not to do is don't keep secrets from the people that you've
Yeah.
engaged to help you, because houses aren't generic. We think
Hmm.
about that. I mean, they're marketed as this sort of like investment resale
Yeah.
object, but actually, I think done well, the job of a designer of any stripe is to personalize and to really help a house suit the people that live in it.
150%. It's
Mhm.
personal, right? Personalized. We all don't want cookie cutter houses. That's
Yeah.
not what the mid-century aesthetic is,
And
right?
even for people who are worried about what will the next people want, ideally, your house will be found by someone else who was looking for that. If we're reducing bedrooms
Correct.
to make more office space, or we're, creating a really social kitchen or a really closed off,
Right.
I'm an introvert, I'm going to go do my kitchen projects and then come out to the house. Those
Right.
questions, in the best of possible worlds, the next person that finds your house will choose it for that
Correct.
and
Yep.
and love it.
There's a
So,
market for every house. Yeah. As long
mhm.
as you're not, turning it into a carousel, it's like every wall is a different color. I mean, there's an audience for that too, I guess, but yeah.
At least there's an audience for the videos of the Zillow listings of those houses. I
There
hope.
we go. There we go. Right. Maybe not real life.
Well, actually, to that, and that leads us perfectly to the next topic, which next time I chat with you, I want to talk about who to gather around you to
Mm.
make the right choices for your house, and with different people and how they can sort of contribute their different
Oh,
designs
that's important.
at different
Very
times.
important. Yeah.
Well, hopefully we've given everyone some food for thought, and
Oh,
we're going to do this again soon.
yeah, I agree. Very fun. Thanks for having me.
Okay, find the transcript of this episode and a link to the pretty pictures of Elin's recent Atomic Ranched published work at the show notes page, midmod-midwest.com/1809. And don't forget, sign yourself up for tomorrow's Curb Appeal Clinic. Be there live and you can ask me your own most pressing questions about how to make the right choices for your home's exterior, specifically. See you there.